Everyone knows Jack Black. Disheveled and wild-eyed, an enthusiastic guitar player and a live-wire comedic actor, he's delighted audiences both as a star in movies like School of Rock and as the lead vocalist for the comedy rock band Tenacious D. But Jack Black is far from the most historic member of his family. That title belongs to his mother, Judith Love Cohen, a pioneering aerospace engineer whose work played a crucial role in saving the Apollo 13 astronauts in April 1970. Cohen grew up in Brooklyn, New York in the 1930s and 1940s, where options for women were limited. Her mothers and aunts worked at a dress factory, and Cohen entertained herself at home by sewing lace doilies. But she also hung on nearly every word uttered by her father, a soda salesman, as he explained geometric concepts like lines and angles using an ashtray in their apartment. These nightly lessons inspired a love of math in Cohen, who found her thoughts consumed with numbers and equations. Though Cohen felt isolated from her peers and lacked female role models, she mused about becoming a math teacher, even after a guidance counselor suggested that she go to finishing school and quote-unquote learn to be a lady. Instead, Cohen followed her dreams to Brooklyn College and then all the way to the West Coast, where she earned a bachelor's and master's degree in electrical engineering at USC. When she graduated in 1957, Cohen was just one of 8 women in a class of 800. Cohen was also the mother of a growing family, as she had 4 children, including Jack Black, but she balanced motherhood and her burgeoning career. In fact, she even took a work problem to the hospital as she gave birth to Black, her youngest, and later called her boss to tell him that she'd solved the problem, and that, yes, the baby had been born too. A pioneering engineer at a time when just 0.5% of all engineers were women, Judith Love Cohen proved herself a remarkable trailblazer time and time again. Perhaps her greatest moment came in 1970, when it was her work on the abort guidance system for the Apollo space program that helped bring the crew of Apollo 13 safely home after they suffered a catastrophic power loss in space. This is the story of Judith Love Cohen, Jack Black's mother, and a pioneering aerospace engineer. You're listening to History Uncovered, brought to you by the digital publisher All That's Interesting, where we explore the uncharted corners of the natural world and the world past. I'm All That's Interesting staff writer Kalina Fraga.
And I'm All That's Interesting staff writer Austin Harvey.
Today, we're discussing the remarkable life of Judith Love Cohen, an aerospace engineer who saved the astronauts of Apollo 13 and also happened to be Jack Black's mother. I mentioned this to you the other day, but I'm not like a huge Jack Black fan. Although I like him. I just don't know much about his.
That's fair. I went through a big Tenacious D phase back in high school.
I see. I know even less about that, but he's fun. Okay. Like I loved School of Rock when that came out.
Yeah, I mean he's in so many like Kung Fu Panda. That's not the first one that comes to mind. I don't think it is for most people. Recently, the Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, who was he in Mario Brothers?
He was Bowser.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
a good casting.
It was pretty awesome, yeah. I mean, it was basically just Jack Black with like a voice filter on.
Oh, he put a voice filter on too?
Yeah, it was like a little bit deeper. He sings a song in it naturally.
Uh-huh.
What else has Jack Black been in? Tropic Thunder we mentioned.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that.
Oh, he was in that one remake of Gulliver's Island or Gulliver's Travels.
Huh. Has he ever been in like a serious role? He's only done comedic stuff.
I think he's only done comedic stuff. I know in an interview about Tenacious D and why they do comedy music, he said it was like basically like an anxiety thing. Like, oh, if we go out and we sing these like funny songs, even if we mess up or whatever, it kind of alleviates some of the pressure because it's meant to be funny anyway.
I see.
Dude's got a killer voice though. He can like really wail.
Huh. Well, his mother was the opposite in terms of like silly and serious, I think.
Yeah, evidently.
Yeah. So let's dive into her life. Yeah, she was born in Brooklyn in the 30s, 1933. So as you can imagine, what a life like kind of growing up then might be like.
Yeah, right. Post-Depression America.
Yeah, right in the thick of it. Yeah, well, Judith Love Cohen growing up in Brooklyn, like it's the 30s. She had family who had a dress factory. It's where her mothers and aunts worked, and She was a dancer. She took dance lessons and like learned to sew and everything. But she got really interested in math, which was unusual at the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, very different ways that people were raised. Women weren't really expected to have an interest in.
Right.
Was that STEM? Science?
Yeah. I mean, that phrase didn't even exist.
Yeah, no,
in
definitely
the 30s.
didn't. Yeah.
But her interest was born because her father, who was a soda salesman, would show her like geometry on an ashtray.
Oh.
And that just like flipped a switch in her brain. And she became obsessed with math and numbers and equations, and not just math, but astronomy too. And so then she just kind of like really leaned into it.
It's really cool.
Yeah. I always like, I mean, obviously we're both writers, so we're not, maybe not math people.
There's two kinds of people in this world.
Yeah.
People who are good at math and people who write stuff on the internet.
People who write stuff on the internet. Yes. I always liked math, but I was just not very good at it. And it never like clicked with me.
Yeah, same. The only like math science adjacent stuff I was good at physics was the only thing. I was god awful at chemistry and biology.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I was like okay. I was like I scraped by in math. I was pretty bad at like science stuff.
The only C I ever got was in math.
I'm trying to think if I got a C in math. I might have gotten like a B minus.
I had the big. This is like such a side tangent. I had the biggest joke of a math class in college. We had to take a math freshman year, like everyone does. We also had to take a writing intensive course. I happened to find a writing intensive math course.
What?
So rather than doing like equations or anything, it was just like solving math problems with words.
Oh.
It was like demonstrate the idea of like fact checking your work by doing the problem in reverse, but make it a story. So I just retold The Hobbit.
Oh.
I was like, it's there and back again. That's what I mean.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was like pretty stupid about like my math and science requirements. I thought econ would check off the box, and it did not. So I had to take econ, and it was like so hard. I didn't get it. And
would they consider that like a social study?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was really tough. And I was like, this is all just like made up rules and no one understands it, and it's annoying. But yeah, math was never really my strong suit. But it was Judith Love Cohen's. And I think we had very different childhoods than she did, but when she was in 5th grade, other kids were paying her to do their math homework.
Nice.
She was that good.
Nice. Got a side hustle going.
Yeah.
Just a hustle, I guess.
Not too shabby. Right. School and then more school. Yeah. So as she got older, middle school, she was the only girl in intermediate algebra. And she later said that she just like her head was just full of like equations all the time. And it was sort of lonely because no one else thought that way.
Yeah, I bet.
And she said that she was really interested in math and was thinking about a career in like math, or she said in studying cosmic rays, which I don't even know how she even came across that as a kid in Brooklyn. But she said she hadn't seen women do anything like this. The one thing that she had seen a woman doing that seemed interesting was teaching math. So she thought, well, I'm so good at math and I like math, and it's consuming my every thought, so I might as well be a math teacher.
Makes sense.
So she won a scholarship to Brooklyn College, but then her guidance counselor was like, do you really want to go to college and study math? And like, maybe it'd be better to go to finishing school. And she literally said, learn to be a lady instead.
Oh.
Yeah.
I hate that.
I know.
What a terrible, jeez.
That's not a very good guidance counselor.
No,
and she was obviously
bad.
Very wrong about Judith Love Cohen, because she did go to Brooklyn College where she met her first husband. I think she had 3 husbands in the course of her life. This was the first one. And they get married and they decided to move together to California, where things really started to take off in her personal life and in her professional life.
Yeah, I mean, 1950s California was kind of the place to be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's exciting times for like aerospace engineering.
And like, I mean, just so many people starting new things there with like even like movies and stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting because her son became an actor, but I'm not sure how involved.
That is funny, yeah. I mean, I guess if they stayed in California,
that
would help.
That would help.
Would help any actor.
Yes. Well, I don't know how much she was going to the movies, but she did enroll in USC, where she got a bachelor's and a master's degree in electrical engineering. She also had 3 children at this time.
Wow.
Jack Black wasn't born yet, but her first 3 children. And when she graduated in 1957, she was one of just 8 women in her class, which had 800 people in it. So
That's crazy.
Not a lot of women, but it all kind of like worked out for her because then she started working as an engineer, even though less than 1% of engineers were women, and got a job at the Space Technology Laboratories, which was a NASA contractor, which fulfilled a childhood dream to study,
cosmic
space
rays
and math and everything. Yeah. She said, I wound up actually being able to do the thing I wanted when I was 10 years old, which is nice. It's kind of a rare thing.
Yeah. I used to want to be an astronaut.
Really?
When I was in kindergarten, first grade, they asked oh, what do you want to be? I liked space. I still like space, but now I just write about it.
I wonder if it's too late for you or not.
It definitely
go back
is.
To school.
Absolutely it is.
I don't know.
I can't. The thing is, I can't ever go back to school.
Oh.
I can't afford it. Yeah, I don't want to get on a whole thing about the student debt crisis right now, but I'm really feeling the brunt of it.
They might pay for it if you're getting a master's degree.
Yeah, but that's also a lot of work.
Yeah.
I already have this job.
Yeah, we're set writing about UFOs instead.
Yeah, I think I started wanting to be a writer probably middle school. So it's still, we can consider that a childhood dream fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've always wanted to do something with words.
Yeah. Once I realized how complicated science and space were, I kind of gave up on that dream real quick.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I was never I never thought about being an astronaut or anything, but I've mentioned this before, but I loved Star Trek, so.
Yeah, I always wanted to be the captain of a star fleet.
Right. Or a writer on Star Trek or something. But
yeah.
Yeah. Well, one never knows. In the world of real science, Judith Love Cohen started doing stuff. And this is the space age, it's exciting times.
Oh yeah.
She worked on projects which included a guidance computer for the Minuteman missile, the abort guidance system, the Apollo space program, which we'll come back to. And other stuff with satellites and et cetera, all very impressive stuff. And meanwhile, she is a mother. Yeah,
that's not easy. At that time, that was your full-time thing. You were a full-time mom most of the time.
Right. And so there's a cool story about she's in the lab and working. And at the time she's pregnant with Jack Black and she goes into labor and goes to the hospital and they call her at the end of the day and to congratulate her on the baby and to check in and everything. And she's basically yeah. But I finished the problem. I solved the problem. So that's done.
Mid childbirth.
Yeah. So she was able to juggle both things in that way, I suppose.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know if her husband's also worked? I assume they did. Stay-at-home dadding wasn't usually a thing, but I'm just...
Yeah. I think her first husband was also a scientist. I'm not 100% sure. And then her third husband, I think, was a teacher.
Okay.
And I don't know what her second husband did.
Wow.
But yeah, the most impressive thing she did, and I think the thing that she's most famous for is helping to save the Apollo 13 astronauts. I don't know if you've seen the movie Apollo 13.
I don't think I have, actually.
I have not seen it. I think Tom Hanks is in it.
Probably.
Possibly. If not him, then someone else of that caliber. But
if not him, somebody else was. Here's one thing we know for sure about the movie Apollo 13. Actors were definitely
there was an
in
actor acting in that movie.
Yeah, not Jack Black.
Not Jack Black, but that would be cool.
I was going to say they should maybe do that. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, so there's these astronauts for the Apollo 13 mission, which goes up in April 1970, and it all goes really wrong. They have an oxygen tank blows up, another one fails. They're losing electricity, light, water, and they're 200,000 miles from Earth.
That's a lot of miles away.
It's a lot of miles, and everything's just going very wrong. And it's Judith Love Cohen's work on the abort guidance system that helped them get back safely.
Wow,
which is amazing. Yeah. Her son said, not Jack Black, but her son Neil said, my mother usually considered her work on the Apollo program to be the highlight of her career, which makes sense because that was a pretty big.
I think that's valid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think most people would consider that to be the highlight of anyone's career.
I know. Being able to see what you do, save people in a very dramatic circumstance.
Yeah. I'm curious if anyone portrayed her in the movie.
I kind of doubt it. 'Cause I think she's part of a team of people who's are working on these things.
Yeah, you were right. Tom Hanks is in this movie.
Oh, okay, nice.
So is Kevin Bacon, apparently.
Kevin Bacon, huh?
Yeah. No, it does not look like Judith Love Cohen is prominently cast in that movie.
I think that's a great idea to have like a Jack Black remake of that movie.
Right? Just for the novelty of it.
Yeah, so that was like a cool thing she did, but she also like kept being pretty impressive in the second part of her life. And after she retired, her third husband, who was a fourth grade teacher, came home one day and like mentioned that he had asked his students what they wanted to be when they grew up. And he noticed that a lot of the girls didn't say things like scientists. They said things more stereotypical careers for women. And Judith Love Cohen was like, we can change that, because if you don't know what options you have at that age, then you won't go on that path. So she and her husband started working together to write these stories about women in STEM, scientists and lawyers, or not just STEM, I guess, then professional women. And they published like all these books, 100,000 books about professional women.
That's so many books.
It's cool. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the really cool thing is they had trouble even finding a publisher for these books. And this was like in the 90s.
Oh, okay. Well,
so
it's a little less excusable.
Yeah. They started their own book company and they started publishing these books so that young girls could have a chance to see what options are out there, and then they could choose to study math or science, which is awesome. And I think I think obviously in this day and age, people are a lot more aware of what's out
it's
there.
It's not as like gate kept.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're just more exposed to stuff. I was going to say, I think in my life, the majority of people I know who like went on to study STEM topics were women. Like a lot of girls that I went to high school with were very scientifically inclined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a lot of friends in college who kind of went on that path. I mean, I was doing more like history and stuff myself, but yeah, which is great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in any case, she died in 2016, and Jack Black has posted a picture of her on Instagram before. We've also posted on Facebook of her like next to this like impressive looking like space age satellite, I think. And he said, because people post this thing and then there's always these articles being like, is it true that Jack Black's mom? And he said, it's true. My mom was a badass aerospace engineer and also a loving mother. I miss you, mama, which is nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
And then I guess the last thing I wanted to touch on was that she wasn't the only woman who like was doing stuff at the time. Like it was a rarity. And we've covered a lot of these stories on our site, but there's like the Hidden Figures women, which is another movie I haven't seen. Katherine Johnson, Mary Jackson, and Dorothy Vaughan, who are all like very impressive Black women working at NASA at a time when that was like, there were a lot of barriers to doing that.
Yeah. I mean, two big ones being Black and women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they fought their way in and they were able to do some impressive stuff. And then Margaret Hamilton, who she wrote code by hand for Apollo 11. And there's a picture of her.
Crazy.
It's so crazy. It's a picture of her and she's like kind of a petite woman, like next to this like binders and binders of code that she wrote.
By hand. That's
and this was in the 60s.
Insane.
Yeah, I know. So, I mean, I think check out these stories on our site as well, because they're all impressive. And sometimes when you look at history, it can seem like very white and very male and everything. But obviously these stories are out there.
Right.
People did like break barriers and stuff. So some to check out.
As a cis straight white man, I love to see it. You know?
Yes.
love to see women doing things.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy that even last week when you mentioned it, I had no idea.
Yeah.
One, I didn't know anything about her at all, but like the fact that her son is such a prominent person as well in a totally different field.
Right. Yeah, totally different. I'd never heard of her until I wrote the article, and then doing research for that, I saw the articles online being like, surprise, Jack Black's mom is, and on Facebook and everything as well. It is surprising and very cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're really lucky if you get one person in a family who does something worth note.
Yeah. Well, it's so different too. It's not like she was an actress, then he became an actor.
Right. Because you see a lot of that, like nepotism babies.
Yeah. Right. Nepo babies.
Yeah. But not, never, this sort of situation is like a rarity. It's really crazy.
Yeah. It's cool. But anyway, it's kind of a nice story. It's very different from last week's story.
Yeah. It's a nice it's a nice thing to end on for this week.
Yeah. Something inspirational more. And I love that she, even after like having this career, she gave back and like wanted to blaze a path for other people, other women.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine her husband coming home being like, yeah, all these girls said they wanted to be a secretary or be a teacher or do all these things. And like none of them really seemed interested in this path you've taken. And she could have, I mean, that could just be like, oh, that's a bummer.
Right.
But like she went the
She's
extra
like, what can I do about that? Yeah. Well, because she knew how it felt to be someone who didn't have those role models. And like, what do you do? Oh, I'll be a math teacher, I guess. It's the only thing I've seen someone do before.
I can't imagine her coming up in like the 30s and 40s with this like radically different mindset to people around her.
I know. Yeah. Well, and even to have like someone like your guidance counselor be like, college.
Yeah. Why don't you go train to become a lady? It's like, I think I'm already a lady.
Wouldn't that be better for you?
I don't know if you've noticed. I am a lady.
Even just to go to get a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in the 50s is remarkable, I think.
Yeah. And it probably only costs like $1.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Coming back to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably so.
I don't know how many people in general were pursuing masters at that point in time. Like, likely not many. I
guess, like, if you were like on the GI Bill, you probably were because it was free and you just got back from war. But for women like her, like rare, like obviously because she was like one of only 8.
Do you think a lot of those guys were pursuing masters though? I mean, if you were in the war at a young age and you came back and wanted to pursue like higher education, you might still only be doing like a bachelor's or even an associate's.
I don't know. I know that my grandfather got a master's with the GI Bill.
Oh, well, that's cool.
I mean, because it's like you might as well, it's free, and I don't know what like the statistics are, the numbers there. I'd say she's a pioneer. Yeah, I think there was so few women doing what she was doing, and I think we only kind of acknowledge her because she's the mother of a famous actor, and because her work like did save the astronauts. Yeah. But even if it had saved the astronauts and like Jack Black wasn't her son, we probably wouldn't be discussing her. Which is, there's other women like her out there. Just we're not talking about them as much or at all.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, well, I guess it is fortunate. She's worth talking about regardless. And it's fortunate that because her son is famous, we are aware of her. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate that might be the reason why. Right. Yeah. And I think it goes to show how many stories like this are probably out there that we don't know about. I mean, I think one thing I do like about like like our job is that we often cover sort of like forgotten stories. Yeah, about like women and people of color and just things that haven't been as documented as well. And she certainly fits into that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All these people on the edges of history or in the margins. Yeah. Yeah. There's tons. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of History Uncovered, all about Judith Love Cohen and her exemplary pioneering career. If you want to get the full story about that and other women like her, go to allthat'sinteresting.com. We have new stuff going up on the site every single day. Yeah, check out the site. You can also join our newsletter by going to allthat'sinteresting.com/signup. Or becoming a member at allthat'sinteresting.com/membership. You can write in at podcast@allthat'sinteresting.com and, provide any feedback, any personal stories, any things that relate to this, any suggestions for stuff you might want us to cover. Future episodes, yeah. If you want to leave us a voicemail, say hello, give your thoughts about an episode, you can call us at 929-526-3029. And that's that. And we might play the message here on the show. We'd love to hear from people what they think about the show and suggestions, ideas, Yeah, love to hear from our
our listeners. Yeah, so we'll be History Happy Hour next week, and then we won't be doing History Happy Hour in October.
Right, because we have a lineup of spooky adjacent stories.
So many spooky stories to cover, but we'll be back with that in November.
Yeah. I mean, next month is going to be really fun. It's going to be really exciting. We're talking, obviously, starting it off with the Mermaid Inn, which is this very famous inn in the UK that has a host of potentially paranormal guests. After that, we're talking about the Enfield haunting.
From The Conjuring.
Right.
2.
Conjuring 2, yeah.
Yeah. And then Sleepy Hollow, right?
Sleepy Hollow, I think, in Mothman is also being thrown in there now. Mothman and which, God, I love talking about cryptids. They're so fun.
I think that October is like the site's favorite season.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And so we're really leaning into all the spooky stuff we cover and be podcasting about that.
I can't wait to talk about the Warrens. I have strong opinions on Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah, they are a couple of characters. That's for sure.
Yeah, a couple of creepy weirdos who kept a girl in their basement.
They did?
Yeah, Ed had this like young girl that he had sex with that like lived with them for a bit. It's a weird thing. Oh, we'll get into it.
Okay, cool. I won't say I can't wait, but I am interested to hear this story. All right. Well, yeah. Tune in next time for History Happy Hour, and then we'll dive into spooky season.
Woo!
Woo! All right. Thanks for listening.
Bye.